evening. Welcome to A Different Perspective. My name is Karen Green, and I am so glad that you joined us this evening. A Different Perspective is about building bridges in the community. From the streets to the jailhouse, from the jailhouse to the courthouse, from the courthouses to the churches, we need the perspective. We cannot have the spiritual without the practical. We're going to talk about it all. But because of 2020 and going through the pandemic, voting, all that we went through with 2020, there has to be some clarity. God impressed upon my heart to start a podcast that we could talk about different cultures, different perspectives of life, and the truth of it. So from this point till when God tells me to stop, I am going to be talking about things that will make a difference and begin to build the bridges, begin to build the unity back in our community. So without saying any more, our segment this night is going to be about the Hispanic community. And we have a powerful leader of the Hispanic community that is going to be speaking with us. And I am excited about what is about to happen. So get your ears on and get your spirit right. And let's listen to what is needed to be said. Hello, how are you?
Great, how you doing?
Well, I am so excited about our conversation tonight. I'm so excited about this segment. I've been just running around all day,
I bet.
but I have already kind of set the pace that we're going and the focus that we're going in to.
Okay, good.
This, one of the things I wanted to talk about real quick was this is Women's History Month. And This is such a good thing, because women are taking their place in our society. We are getting up and we're doing what is in us, what God has put in us. Forward. And I just want to give you the opportunity, first of all, to introduce yourself, who you are and what you do, and just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, well, thank you, first of all, to my dear friend, Miss Karen Green, who is just absolutely an awesome, awesome lady, more energy than I will ever have in my whole life. But I am Yolanda Lara, and I work for the Dallas County Sheriff's Department. I have been there now for 20 years. I am the first female to have this position, and I am the director of inmate services. So this is my final stop, I say, in my career, in terms of I'll be retiring at the end of this year. But I'm starting on a new journey. I will, Miss Karen, just doing other things. But as you said, Miss Karen, this, who I am is I am a daughter of a second generational family. People say, what does that mean? First generation, second generation. Well, first generation is my parents. Their parents were born in Mexico.
Right.
So, and that makes my parents the first generation.
Right.
So since I'm their daughter, I'm second generation.
But hold up, because there's a question I have to ask, and I want you to talk about it, because you talked about your profession, you talked about what you've been doing the last 20 years, but I want to talk about your personal, about you being a mother, you being a wife. Let us know your family.
Okay. Okay, well, I am the second child out of 5 children, and I am married. My husband is a detective with the Dallas County Sheriff's Department.
Oh!
And we both grew up in Pleasant Grove, but we were rival schools. He was at Samuel and I was at Spruce High School. So just it's surprising we were rivals there in high school, but we didn't know each other in high school. We didn't get to know each other till I worked for the Sheriff's Department.
Right.
I have two beautiful children of my own. Both of my kids are grown. My daughter, I have a daughter who works for DPS.
Oh,
and I have a son who's working for AutoZone, and I am the most proudest grandma you will ever meet. Got a 3-year-old grandbaby, that my grandson, a little girl, and I tell you, the world is not the same once you become a grandma. It's a whole different world.
It really is a whole different world. You know, I was saying before we got on that you were a community leader. You know, you are one of those women that take the charge and go forward, you know, and this segment is about the Hispanic culture. And like you said, we were talking over lunch, and I just really thought it was so important that we would learn a little bit more about the Hispanic culture. And let me just say, you know, it's about building bridges. It's about understanding culture, that we will come together. You know, 2020 was one of those years that I just, you know, everything came to the surface. So when God impressed up on my heart to do this podcast, I didn't know exactly, but I knew that I had to do something to bring some understanding. You know, the people perish for lack of knowledge, and that means that things happen in their life because they don't know. So this is what this podcast is about. It's information about the community as well as the people of the community, and trying to mend the bridges, you know, the breaches that are there. So can we talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely.
Yes. So one of the things that we talked about before is your culture. Let's just talk about the culture itself. It is family oriented. You know, I see, you know, I love the culture of our, you know, family, and I see them out at the parks with their kids, beautiful, take very good care of their children. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Absolutely. Now, I will say that we were so blessed to grow up with such a close-knit family. Now, that's one thing that our culture does have, is that, you know, we have lots of children. Daddy and mom are there, but daddy and mom are working hard, and they're working hard to provide for the kids. And come the weekend, let's take the kiddos to the park. Let's take the kiddos to the zoo. It's whatever they do. They don't do it alone. They do it with the family. It's where the family's going to go, you know, with all the kids, where the kids are going to be welcome and that kind of thing. So I remember, I mean, even this as a child, when daddy would take all of us, he'd load us all up in the car, mom and daddy, we'd just go for the weekend to the lake. You know, nothing fancy. We didn't have a lot of money, but it was a nice little campsite that we just rented, a state campsite over Lake Whitney. But we were together. And we're spending time together. And that's the thing right there. It's the time that you spend together and make those bonds and those connections and those memories, because believe me, the bond that you have with your parents, the respect that you have for them will be such a factor when you're making decisions when you're older.
Okay.
And I say that out of, you know, personal experience. Because I had so much respect for my mom and my dad. When I was in high school, I wanted to drop out a couple of times, you know, but my parents, just the respect of my parents, said, no, baby, that's not what you want. I wanted to help with the income. I knew we were struggling. You know, we get our lights cut off, you know, we get our water cut, daddy, I can just work more hours. If I don't go to school, they'll increase my shift at the store. You know, I can work more hours. But what he and my mom were trying to tell me, that's not why we moved here. That's not what we wanted. You wanted a better life for you than what we had. So it does impact, in the decision making in their children, the connection that they have with their parents.
Well,
It does.
just hearing you talk, and just the love that they had to see and want you to have better is something just really just it's not heard of these days in families. I'm just being real, because the family is so off key, and I thought, I would start the segment with the Hispanic culture because I see so much togetherness there. And I really feel that is something that we can take from the Hispanic culture, the family or the unity, taking just what we have and enjoying each other, that is something that, the Hispanic community is, displaying and demonstrating in front of us, and I'm just so happy for that. And thank you for mentioning, how respectful, your parents wanting things better for you. We talked about there was so much going on at the border, during 2020, and nothing wrong with someone wanting better for their children, and I understand that we have to do it the right way, but we don't have to do it cruelly. Okay.
No, absolutely.
We don't have to do it cruelly,
We all have to remember we're humans.
Yeah.
In actuality, when you break it down, Ms. Karen,
Yes.
you want the best for your children.
Yes.
I want the best for my children.
Yes.
And that's a human component that we have in common.
Yeah.
Okay? And if we can just push that hate to the side for a minute and just say, ask why are they coming here? What is the purpose behind that? What are they doing? And when you peel the layer off, they want a better life for their children.
Amen.
That's what they want. They don't want their kids to suffer. They want a better tomorrow for them. Mm-hmm. The dreamers, that's why they call them the dreamers. The parents brought them over here, so they can have that dream and try to attain that. Mm-hmm. The parents' vision is the kids at the time don't understand it. Mm-hmm. But as you get older, you look back. Boy, you are not kidding. You look back and you think, how in the world did mom and daddy raise all of us? I mean, I look back and I thought, and you just have so much more respect for them because through the trials, through the financial struggles, through the health things, that life happens, but we never split up. We always stay together. It brings your family closer. All the things that you go through, it brings you closer. It really does. And that's what I see. I think that we were poor it wasn't a negative thing. It was, now we look back and we laugh at each other. We laugh. You remember them old holy jeans you used to wear? And you didn't even have the iron.
Sometimes you didn't even know you were poor. You didn't even know it. Right? Way of life. Good. Now, listen. Right. I am in the jails, and I am teaching and bringing a new perspective to the lives of the women, through life skills, through healthy relationships, and I'm learning so much about the culture. Let's talk about the women of the culture, okay, and the life that they live there. We talked a little bit about it at the lunch, and I really want to get into that. Okay. I want them to know, the things that you were telling me about the women, the Hispanic women, and the culture, and, how they go about living, the family, and how it is organized, how it is, put together. So tell me, and, listen, I want us to be real. Sure. Absolutely. I'm going to ask some questions, and I'm going to ask you some questions. So we're going to get a little deep, okay? So let's just talk about the women's position in the family. So let's, can you start from there?
Sure, absolutely. And I can tell you that in our family, and, thousands of families like us, our dad was the head of the family. Okay. So we were not a voice. We had to ask for permission to do anything.
Right.
We didn't ask mama.
Right.
We had to go ask daddy. Because if daddy said it's okay, then we're going to do it.
Right.
Okay. And that's just the way it was. And if daddy says yes, it's yes. And daddy says no, it's no. So we were raised that way. But I think, and we still respect, we have that respect for our spouses, you know, as heads of the family. But I think that depending on your generational, here's where the generational thing comes in.
Okay.
First generational women are so much different than second generational women.
Okay.
And second generation are so different from third generational women. First generational women are the women who mainly stay home. The dad goes to work, husband goes to work, they stay home, they're the homemaker. And those traditional roles are very, very much still alive and well in the first generational families of the Hispanic culture. So the second generation would be like my mom. When she went to work, her sisters, you know, my aunts were like, oh, she's gonna go work, you know, and it was just not the norm. It was different. But my mom and my dad had moved here from Laredo, Texas. Even though it was Texas, it's still a border town, and is very, very much still the old ways of our culture. You know, where if say that you have a spouse and he didn't like what you said, you talk back to him, you disrespected him, whack, you gonna get hit. Okay, because you disrespected him. Okay. Is domestic violence in our culture? Absolutely, it is. It is, and it's part of that, you know, well, it's not she got on my nerves or you don't know what she did. It's you talk back to me. You didn't listen to me. You didn't do what I told you to do. It's a smack of, let me remind you who is in charge, who is the head of this family.
Whoa.
Yeah. So domestic violence is in all generations. Of course. But
in all cultures.
And all cultures. And I think just the differences in the cultures will be, well, you know, maybe in the more American culture would be, well, if you knew what I knew, you'd hit her too. You know, all the excuses that you hear from the men, you know, at the jail and things like that. But when Hispanic women oftentimes suffer from that domestic violence, it's because he felt disrespected. His you know, macho, his ego, that's what you damaged, and you'll pay for it.
Right. That is one thing that was on the rise, you know, during the pandemic, domestic violence. And let me say, because I receive a lot of calls of women trying to get out of the situation. And, you know, we have funds to help them get to a hotel or whatever. And majority were Hispanic. And that was one of the reasons I really wanted to talk, because I really needed to understand, you know, with this being the 21st century, you know, women are not to be tamed or, you know, be treated as a child subject, you know. So it was just behooving me, you know, because my passion is so great to, you know, see women free from that, you know, type of situation that I had to understand, because not only were they coming out, but they were going right back in.
Well, you see, in our culture, it's like this. It's, we don't leave the home. Like we didn't leave my parents' home. I didn't leave my parents' home. My sisters didn't leave my parents' home until we were married. Right. So it's like it's a transfer from my being under the care of our father to now we're in the care of our spouse. Right. And so that, until you get to third and fourth generation, it's not, they're the ones that want to move out and get an apartment on their own before they get married. And you know, even me, my daughter, when she wanted to move out, I was like, but why? But no, sweetie, you're supposed to stay here with mama. You're supposed to stay in the home until we marry you off. And when she gets married, then she's supposed to be taken care of by her husband.
Yes.
So it's that whole, I am now entrusting you with the care of my daughter, and then the husband takes her and provides the home for her. Right. So he's now, he's out there.
That was one thing that I come to understand. They felt they didn't have anywhere else to go, and that was it, And I really had to really let them know that you had a choice. They didn't figure out they had a choice, and I understand now it's because of the culture they come from, the way they were raised, the way their minds were shaped to think, and that was the old way, but now we're in the 21st century, and we do need to begin to educate them, let them know, you don't have to be abused to be loved. Right. You don't have to take abuse to be taken care of. When you've got your strength, your life, your health and strength, you can get up and make it for you and your kids, Exactly. But, I know in the past, when I'm talking to some of my Hispanic sisters in there, they're telling me things, and I just don't think, but I let them know you have a choice today, you do. Mm-hmm. So this is helping us to understand even more about even the domestic violence part, and I'm hoping that when people hear this podcast, that they will know and they begin to put into place things to help them to understand this, help them to get their own identity, help them to know their self-worth. Their self-worth is not in what you do for your children and your husband. It is within you, and what you do for them, you enjoy, So I'm hoping that programs get put in place that these women will come to know that. So that will help the community come together. You know what I'm saying? You understand? Yeah. I'm because there are people out there that assist with domestic violence, and I don't understand, Miss Green, what? And I'm hoping that when they see this, that they'll know. They'll help them to understand and help them in ways of helping these women and in the way they need help.
And they need to also understand that it's not a disrespect to their family because they chose to leave that relationship.
Right.
Because of the breaking, and a lot of times if you have the older folks, the grandparents, great-grandparents will, you say, but you're splitting up your family. Mm-hmm. And it's like a guilt, a shaming, if you will, because they decided to leave that abuser. Well, if she doesn't leave that abuser, she's not going to live much longer. Because one of them hits, it's going to be one hit too hard, and she's going to die. And heaven forbid that happen in front of the kids. That kind of thing. But it is hard for them to pull away from the people that they've respected and loved, and then to step away from that and go out in a different spectrum from what they've known, what they've been taught since they were little girls.
That's hard. I understand.
It is.
But we're coming to understand.
It's okay. It's okay to do it.
And that's why programs such as what we have out here are here to assist them, to love them, to help them understand that they do have choices today. So I'm so grateful for what you're saying here, because it needs to be said.
Sure.
So now we want to go a little bit deeper, because one of the things I wanted to talk about is generational sex abuse. Mm-hmm. In the culture. Mm-hmm. There were many of the, I have babies, and I have some Hispanic babies. I do, and they love me, and I love them.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do.
And they tell me about, uncle, uncle, and been having this abuse going on for years, and sometimes mama know, and mama say nothing. Right. So let's talk about this. I just want your input on this. I know
Sure.
you know it goes on, and I
Absolutely.
want the community to know that this is one of the places where the damage is being done, and
And they often end up right there at the jail.
yes,
When
yes,
the ladies end up there, they got a story. You know that all of them got a story. Something
yes,
happened somewhere along the way.
right,
And oftentimes it is sexual abuse. And most of the sexual abuse is done, it's not by a total stranger, it's from a family member. It's from an uncle or a grandpa or a brother or someone that if she says something or if mama knows, and mama knows what will happen if she speaks up. And it's just better to stay silent about it. Even though she knows that it's damaging their child because of what will happen if they speak up and say it, it's going to split the family apart.
wow,
And not realizing the internal damage that's going on
mm-hmm,
that their child is gonna suffer.
mm-hmm,
Trying to cope through that, and it happens. It happens, and then the instances could be higher because we have multi generations or a lot of family members that oftentimes come to live with us. If we're trying to help out an uncle or a grandpa or something, it's maybe just not one Hispanic family there. There's maybe 2 to 3 that live in a home.
mm-hmm.
They have access. What is it? You have access to them. They're right there.
Oh, wow. Yeah, yeah. So it happens, and a lot of times when it happens, mom don't say nothing, and because she don't want the family to split up.
Get up.
Oh my
Right.
God.
Right.
Oh,
And they know what damage that will do.
oh my
And
goodness.
then,
So we know what damage it do because we see
boy,
it,
do we
we
ever.
see it every day, right? Right.
Mhm.
Oh my goodness. So can I ask, can I get a little personal? Has
Sure,
it happened
absolutely.
in your family? I just a little.
And it has happened in my family. And I will say that my cousin who ended up um, passing away here just a couple years ago, ended up as a result of that, he had an uncle who had molested him as a child, as a boy. He was a young man, a little boy, and then, but didn't make the outcry until he was a little bit older.
Right.
And then when he did make the outcry, it was a huge family fight.
Oh.
One of his uncles went, confronted the other uncle, and it was on. And those two families became just feuding, about that. And then that particular cousin was sent to go live with grandma
Uh-huh.
to remove him from the home.
Mm-hmm.
But no treatment was ever given to him. Nothing was.
Oh.
We don't do the counseling thing because then we're telling other people our
That
business.
was the next thing I was going to go into.
We don't do therapy. That'll be a third or fourth generational down the line, but first and second generation,
No counseling.
yeah, the therapy would not be something that we would have, that he was offered. And of course, he ended up turning to drugs, and he had a drug habit his whole life.
Oh, wow.
Just hurt. Me, I can't cope. Unable to cope with it, but and then with the family fallout, that still those families don't speak even now. So I think when people see that, if somebody else was getting it done to them, they wouldn't say anything because they saw the oldest brother who spoke up and said something, and look at what it did. Now, were his sisters? I suspect yes, but there's no way that they would ever
Say it.
come out and say it.
Wow.
No, not after they saw what happened.
So that is big in the community, in the Hispanic community.
Yes.
And that's a thing that I talk about is the secrets that keep you sick.
Mm-hmm.
The secrets that tear up your insides and have you on medication, having you acting out, having you doing things that in the long run cause you consequences, not just to yourself, but everything around you, you know.
Right.
So let me just ask you, you said there's no counseling, you know, in that perspective. I mean, for is that, you know, offered in the community for is that situation. What do you think it would take in this generation to just bring about what is needed for the family to really become to begin to be whole? You know, this is I'm just talking, you know, but
Right. Yeah.
you know, to hear all of this, you know, I just want to. What is your perspective? Like, I know you're really a community leader. I know that. I know that. And you do a lot for the Hispanic community. What would be that one thing, if it was one thing, that you would recommend for the Hispanic community to really bring it to such a beginning of turning and wellness, you know, understanding, you know, just that holistic, you know. You know, you have the family thing, and but it's toxic inside. So what is it that you would do? I mean, what is it that you think? Is that a question that you can ask? Am I asking the right question?
No. I mean, it's something that the way I see it, and through my experience with the criminal justice system, and in working with families in the community, it is a shameful thing. It is a shameful, and no family wants to be known as that family who had the uncle or the grandpa that was messing with the kids. Nobody wants that shame. So it would be extremely difficult, even in a close-knit community, let's say West Dallas, you know, close-knit Hispanic community, maybe have something at the rec center, but then everybody knows after a while that, they're going in there because something happened to one of them kids. Or so, you know, it's always that shaming of, it's the family name. It's the Lopez family, or the Gomez family. It's the family name, and it's they would be looked upon, and they feel that their neighbors and community would be looking at them in that negative light because they had something that happened in their family. But honestly, when just through my experience, it helps if there's a family therapy where everybody goes together as a family, and really then where the family can be comfortable together. And then from there, I think after they go a couple of times and they see that it's okay to talk to somebody else about what's happening, in a constant reminder that this is to keep your family together. Yeah. This is so you can heal together as a family. I think that's the crucial overall message that has to be sent to that family in order for them to go as a family. And then from there, identify who needs something on their own. And then it's not so shamed on. It's not so looked upon as so negative as because we all went as a family, and then now we're just getting individual stuff. Yeah. But it's to keep our family together.
Right.
The whole goal of this is so that we don't separate and divide our family.
Wonderful. Thank you for being honest and open. It was kind of hard. I was like, I hope don't see. But thank you for being. Now, listen, what I wanted to talk about now, because you know who I am. I want to talk about the spiritual perspective of the Hispanic culture. Can we talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely.
Tell me what it is pretty much. I know the majority of our Hispanic believers are Catholic. Am I right?
A large majority, yes, ma'am.
So let's talk a little bit. Tell me a little bit about the spiritual perspective of the culture.
And I will tell you this, that the first and second generation are more connected to the church and more connected to spirituality than the third and fourth generation are.
Oh, wow.
Crazy as that is, but the third and fourth generational, even though they saw their parents go to church all the time and practice, whether it would be Catholicism or evangelism or, whatever it was, they themselves feel, and they have a different perspective as, yeah, I know my mom's Catholic, my dad's Catholic, and they go to church. God, they go to church and they pray all the time. But me, I'm not sure. They question their perspective on religion and faith more so than the first and second generational. First and second generational, I mean, my parents, my mom was Catholic. My dad was converted to Baptist, and which is why we ended up here in Dallas, because my dad did missionary work for the Baptist church. Mm-hmm. All we knew growing up was Baptist, but all of our friends in school were all Catholic, but still the spirituality, the first and second generation, much, much more connected to the church and religion and spirituality than so are the third and fourth generations.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So now the third and fourth generation, what is you're seeing a lot of what?
They, they become more and more, they broaden their, like a gap between the Mexican American traditional cultures and more Americanized. So every generation, it's more and more becoming more like American, and start losing that Mexican culture that they had.
So instead of going to church, having the spirituality, they don't go to church. They
may from time to time. Mm-hmm. Or maybe like the ones that go on Christmas and Easter, those kind of folks. Those folks but they're not as spiritual at all as the first and second, because they're just and they become Americanized, and they start questioning faith. Well, why should I? Just because they are, maybe I need to go look at this faith or Jehovah's Witness, or maybe I need to look at Seventh-day Adventists or something. Who says that that's the only thing? They're coming from a perspective of questioning more so than the first and second generation.
Good. Mm-hmm. I don't know, but I'm just going to ask, do you think that has a lot to do with a lot of the young Hispanics that are now in gangs?
Yes, absolutely. It also, research has shown that surprisingly, the third and fourth generations are the ones who they don't have that same hunger that the first and second generation had to make it, to succeed, to work, that the deep, hard work ethic that we're gonna get through this school no matter what, we're gonna succeed because mom and dad said it was important that we get our education. They drilled that into us. And then the third and fourth generation are, they're not as driven. Again, the gap broadens from the traditional Mexican-American culture that the first and second generation had, and they're becoming more and more Americanized. A lot of them don't even know how to speak Spanish anymore. Once it comes to the third generation, fourth generation, completely lose the language.
Oh, wow.
Don't understand or speak Spanish.
Wow.
But yeah. And I mean, my niece and my nephew, neither one of them, my kids, they understand it, but they can't speak it back. My son can some, but my niece and my nephew, neither one of them can. Mm-hmm. Yet Spanish was my first language when we were here, moved from Laredo, Texas to Dallas. We all of us, we only knew how to speak Spanish. Mm-hmm. But yet my children don't.
Yeah, because of the culture, because of The community yes,
Sure, sure.
yes. Well, good. One of the other things that thank you, because I wasn't sure about the games, but I knew that we have a uprise of gangs now in our community, and we have a overflux of newcomers from California, from North, and so all of this is coming together down here, and it's getting to be a little dangerous. And I went out with our police sweep in October, and it was just crazy. It was crazy. And I mean, it was boldly, I thought it was, I was like, what is going on out here? So I did, like, what, do I need to be out here anymore? But it really was prevalent. I mean, just anger, frustration, just rulers. This is my turf. I was like, oh my God, you see it on TV, but not as quite as it was real. It was real. So that is part of the Hispanic culture, So I really thought I might bring that up. Thank you for, just giving your perspective. I know that you are, aware of everything in your culture and in your community, because you're a community leader. And one of the things that I did want to, this is on a better note.
Well, we got to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly, do we not? I mean, it is what it is. But if people want to truly understand, and like you talked about, Bridget, it's not all pretty. It's not all good. It's not all fluffy. It's not all frosting on the cake. While we are a very close-knit, family-oriented culture, we also have things within our culture that we have to work on as well. Yeah. And it's really hard for when, let's say that, me and, my parents, and then my kids and their kids, they don't exactly, they don't listen to the kind of music I do. They're like, how are you listening to the Mexican music? They don't understand it. They don't understand the culture of them like I do with my parents. So it's, well, what's their identity? And the gang thing, what is that? They're trying to find an identity because they're not identifying anymore with, with their parents and what they're distancing themselves from it. So it's another set of group that, here's who we are. This is us, and this is our territory, and nobody crosses, this side of the street because this belongs to us, and they'll protect it with their life.
It's like they're renaming, identifying the family.
Absolutely.
So where it came from traditional to, what we want it to be, and and that is, very violent, unstable, and it is a cost because many lives are lost.
Oh, absolutely, young lives.
Which led me to the question was, from your perspective, what is truly needed in the Hispanic community that truly will bring about a difference or will make the difference, or what is needed? Just what's needed? Tell me.
I think that what's needed is, and I've said this so many times because I see this with the African American churches, that they have that religion, and the religion has always been very, very important with African Americans. And the church, their pastors will speak up. Their pastors will go to advocate. Their pastors will be that voice. Whereas the Hispanic community, with all the stuff that's going on with babies being found on the beach that drowned trying to cross over, dead little bodies in cages, with all of that going on, where are our religious leaders? How come our priests are not speaking up, or our pastors are not speaking up? Why isn't that there? Where is that voice for the Hispanic community besides the one or two that you see all the time?
Mm-hmm.
You know, where is that? And I think that's a big void in the Hispanic community.
Mm-hmm.
That it's because we're also taught, don't make trouble.
Mm-hmm.
We're taught, you know, be respectful. Don't ever talk back to your teachers. Don't ever challenge. Don't ever question.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we're taught at a young age.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you be respectful, and you know, and so when you grow up, you don't want to challenge that teacher or question that teacher that has something different, that says something different that maybe you don't agree with,
Mm-hmm.
because it's going to be seen as disrespectful.
Mm-hmm.
So as adults, we're trying to make a living, working class are trying to make a living, put the bread on the table, and horrible things are happening, but who's speaking up?
Mm-hmm.
Is it because we've been taught, it's been ingrained in us not to be it? If you're one who speaks out, you're a troublemaker. You know, you're one who's looking for trouble. Why do you look for trouble? Let the family be. You know, things will work out the way God wants them to work out. Don't go interfering in that kind of stuff. That's what we're taught. So I think that with the third and fourth generation, they need the folks that are starting to stray from the religion and going into gangs, and they need those positive voices to go out there and speak up and say, it's not okay that you're treated this way. It's not okay that, you know, you didn't understand the English language at school, so you dropped out so nobody would make fun of you. It's not, those things are not okay. But who is that voice? Who's that voice?
Amen. Okay. I understand.
Yeah.
And that is so important in our communities, you know, that we have leaders that will bring us together and speak, you know, where it needs to be spoken, you know, especially with our young people, you know, especially with what we are facing, you know, in this generation. You know, you spoke about the young generation getting away from not working, you know, feel like the world owes them something.
Something. Yeah.
Well, it's happening not only in the Hispanic, but in the
Mhm.
Black community also. So we are losing values and morals, you know, family values and morals. So it is so important. You have said that we have spiritual leaders that step up and really speak out for the Hispanic community. And I believe you are one of those voices that can stand and speak out and say, hey, no more, no more. And I want to encourage you, Yolanda, that God has given you a gift. And that gift is to stand firm and speak and let it be known that this is what it is and this is what's needed.
Right.
You know, and I'm going to speak on behalf of my Hispanic brothers and sisters.
Right.
Because we know,
Mhm.
you know, because you know what is needed. So
Right.
I applaud you. I thank you for being who you are, having the heart that you have to see people's lives change, not only just Hispanic, but anybody that comes into, you know, your little perspective, your little air. Yes, you know, and I just thank God for you. There's so many women, powerful women, and I'm going to be pulling on those powerful women, you know,
Mhm.
that has so much in them that God has placed that this is your season to step
Right.
up and speak up. Because when this broadcast goes live, I'm going to make sure that I publicize it, you know, where the community can hear it, you know, and I just believe that some good is going to come out of it. You know why, Yolanda? Because because he told me to do it. You know me.
That's right. He's
So
guiding your steps, and as long as he guides your steps,
yes,
Karen.
yes.
Absolutely.
So I will stay focused. I will stay, you know, my ear to his heart so I can hear him very clearly. Thank you so much for your
Thank you.
perspective. Don't take long, and I know, it's, people that listen to it, we don't want to, we just want them to get what God has for them. Amen.
Sure.
So
Absolutely.
to close this up, this different perspective, can we just get you to just give us some positive to the women of this community, this society, since this is Women's History Month?
Oh
Give
my
us
goodness, yes.
something. Give us something. Give us something. Give us
Well,
something. I'm waiting here.
to the women in our community, I mean, we are the glue that hold things together. I mean, we're stronger than that crazy old, what's that though? That gorilla glue. We're stronger than gorilla glue. Okay, we have that power within us. We do, and sometimes we don't realize how much we have within us. But since we are that glue, then it is up to us to hold, to pull in, and each other as well. We don't need to be looking at each other and talking about each other and jealousy and yeah. Stop all that mess. We need to lift each other up.
Yeah.
We have to. We have to look out for each other. We already got enough things against us. Why would we ourselves go against our own gender? It don't make any sense.
Yeah.
Stop all that mess. Stop all that. So just come on. Let's hold hands. United we stand. We could do so much. We have so much more power than what we think we do. So it's time. It's time, ladies.
Amen. Amen. Well, thank you for giving us those treasures, those words of wisdom. And unity is it. Divided
Yes, ma'am. It is.
fall. But together we will stand and we will stand strong. Thank you so much for your coming and being my first guest.
I'm so privileged.
Thank
you.
And this giving us the perspective from the Hispanic culture. And we know that there is a perspective that makes the difference in our community. And that's what we are aiming for.
Absolutely.
Make a difference. Amen. So thank you all for joining us this evening. Thank you, Yolanda, for giving us of your time and just
Thank you.
helping us understand the culture of Hispanics. And thank everyone that tuned in. We will see you again next week. And thank you. Have a wonderful evening. Remember, we can do this.
Yes, we can. Yes, we can.
A different perspective. That's what it is. Have a great evening. Bye now.